Okay, firstly, we start with the management phase. We started with our need of intelligence, which is could recent clashes between the Moroccan government and the Polisario Front lead to any international problems for Spain. So in our plan, we did a brainstorming which includes 5 Ws. The first one is why. If Spain enters into a conflict with Morocco, the arrivals of immigrants to Spain will most likely get out of control. And the takeover of Ceuta and Melilla is also very possible, since it has always recognized them under Moroccan sovereignty. How? It will most likely start with economic conflict, trying to isolate one country to another. And there is also the possibility of armed conflict, as happened in the past. What has increased since then is the climate of tension caused by the avalanche of immigrants that North African country is allowing to reach to the coast of the Canary Islands. Then we have when. In November 14th of 2020, the Polisario Front broke the truce it held with the Moroccan government. After 30 years of no fire, it declared war on Morocco after the attacks to the civils. Where the conflict is taking place in the North Africa, especially in Morocco, and the Western Sahara territory from Rabat to Kerkrat, which makes a border with Mauritania. And finally, we have who. There are two sides involved in this conflict. The first one is Morocco, and the second one is the Polisario Front. They both claim sovereignty over the same territory. The Occidental Sahara, was the Spanish territory until 1976. We collected this info according to the regions involved in the country. Also, the time we have to finish this report was limited.
Well, the second phase is the collection phase, and after having the main idea of our need of intelligence, we did the process of assigning the members of the group different roles. And since we were a small group, because we are only four members, we all have to do two jobs. And Fernando Tapia, me, and Antonio de Leon, we are gonna do the management process and the collection process. And after that, Natalia and Marta, they are in charge of doing all the analysis part. So while we were looking at information, we tried to collect the information, human and ocean information, but collecting human information was kind of hard because we didn't really find much information from that human info, and we basically collected all the information from newspapers and open sources. Also, we found some information from official sources, but especially open sources and newspapers. And after that, we have to divide that information and classify the information, and before passing it to the analyst, to Marta and Natalia. So we had 5 filters to classify, divide this information. The 5 filters were the information, just the information. The second one was we had to decide if the information was relevant. It was between yes or no. It can be yes, no, it's yes or no. The third filter is going to be the reliability. The more reliable, it's obvious, it's the better, and the more reliable, we wanna put an A if it's really reliable. The fourth filter will be the credibility. It was also kind of hard because we didn't really know if this newspaper was credible, if this open sources was credible, but we came together and we overpassed this. And in last instance, we have the last filter, the urgency, and we only had to say if it was urgent or not with a yes or no.
Now I'm going to talk about the analysis phase, in which we have set acceptable facts in order to avoid our bias, and the signs we can be previously observed and are told to predict what could possibly happen. We have set 5 signs Firstly, I would like to say that the Socialist Party in Spain supports Morocco, but the Sahrawis have not given importance to that issue, and that can cause instability since Spain and Morocco are close allies. Secondly, I would like to say that the problem we have with the Vice President in Spain, since the Vice President supports the Sahrawis, and that can cause a problem to Spain and Morocco, since if Morocco doesn't have the support for Spain, it's gonna search for other supporters like the US, and if the US gives them weapons and armament, it can cause Morocco to occupy Ceuta and Melilla or even the Canary Islands. Thirdly, it's important to take into consideration that the continuous arrival of migration boats to the Canary Islands could be a result of the relaxation of surveillance from the Rabat authorities. Fourthly, I would like to say that if Morocco continues to use Sahara's resources, that could lead to a war between Sahara region and Morocco, and that could also cause the migration crisis in Canary Island to increase, since the people which would not want to go to war would go to the Canary Islands. And finally, the reinforcement of the fence from Ceuta and Melilla could possibly be as a result of a possible attack in that zone. Thank you.
To finish our whole process, we have to do the hypothesis. And so we have identified the whole indicators and the facts that we have to do to have the three hypotheses and to test them. So the first one is that there will be a higher rate of immigration of the people in Morocco, moving to back at what Marta has said, that was Ceuta and Melilla. And also we have to mention the Canary Islands. And the whole deduction that we have made is that the people don't want to be in the places where are in war, so they will be running away. We're calculating this would be in between a year, so this is very important to take into account for the decision maker. Also, this is very high probable because it will be an immediate reaction for the people living in there. This means the citizens. And also there's a middle risk between, this can be like good facilities for the people living there, but also very risky for the families living in there. The second one will be that Spain will have the same position they have had for the past 40 years. This is because we have to go back in time, and we have put it already in our report that the first thing was that in the UN Charter, they wrote the Chapter 11, the Article 73. They are saying that every country has to provide protection and grant supervision for the small country that is not independent yet. So what Spain has done is really not respectable according to what they wrote down in the document of the UN. But they also treat into the Treaty of Madrid in 1975. So probably they're washing their hands, thinking that this territory, the Western Sahara, is now only in hands of Mauritania and also Morocco. So this is the way of Spain just washing their hands. This is our second hypothesis. And to move down to our third hypothesis is that there will be an economic crisis regarding Morocco and also the problems in the Polisario front. We are calculating almost 3 years in this economic crisis. This is very difficult for the country. And our deductions that are drawn back from these are that the first thing they want to do is to isolate the country and cut down the commerce they're going to have, even from ships, trains, and everything they have to do to move the commerce into the country. They want to block that and also create the suffering in there so that there will be an economic crisis. This is less probable, but also a medium risk because it will affect the Sahrawi and also the Polisario front can react really violent, and this will be like very complicated for the people living there. And we think the most probable that will happen is the first one, and that there will be a higher rate of immigration. And we want to take all this into consideration for the decision maker, and we hope all the information has been useful since the first step into the last. We have taken a lot of consideration into this and nothing. Thank you.